Hello and welcome to this edition of EB5 Investment Report. I'm your host, Aimee Rios. Recently we sat down with Brian Hsu, founder and CEO of Artisan Business Group, an EB5 investment consulting company, to discuss challenges facing EB5, the trend towards smaller businesses utilizing the program, and why the EB5 program hasn't been a hot topic in the political campaigns. I'm Aimee Rios, and today we're joined by Brian Hsu, president of Artisan Business Group. Thank you for joining us today, Brian. Can you tell us about your company and why you founded it?
Okay, my company's main services basically is to facilitate the U.S. investment opportunities with the source of funding, source of capital in China.
What role does your company play exactly with EB5?
We play as a strategic advisor to the developers around the country.
And when and why did you become involved with EB5?
I think I started my EB5 consulting service about 7 years ago. That time, really, in Chinese market, nobody truly believed in the program. Yeah, but last 4 or 5 years, we see more and more regional centers were designated in the U.S. And because of the marketing efforts, and the Chinese investors are fully aware of this program at this point, then we see a growing interest in the Chinese investor communities that they are looking for safe opportunities in the U.S. for them to invest.
How have you seen the program evolve since you've been involved?
Yeah, when I started my business with EB5, that time I believe there were only about a dozen regional centers, and now there are over 240 regional centers. So I definitely see the growing interest in both investors community and within the developers community. I think this is a good business because the bottom line is to create jobs for Americans.
Now, with that being said, and we're so close to the election, why don't you think either of the parties have talked about the EB5 program, with jobs and job creation being such a main issue? Why have they not talked about that?
Well, because if you look at the EB5 Regional Center program or EB5 program, in comparison to foreign direct investment (FDI), okay. EB5 program, investment for the EB5 program is like a little drop in a big ocean. So I think that's one of the reasons, because FDI can create a lot of jobs than EB5 program. I think that's one of the reasons the EB5 program did not get enough attention.
Can you talk about direct, indirect, and induced jobs and how that relates to investors getting their green cards?
Direct EB5 is typically the smaller projects we're talking about, such as a restaurant or clubs, because we advise restaurant business as well for direct EB5. Basically, direct EB5 requires full-time direct employment. Okay. The EB5 regional centers allows a developer to cover not only the direct jobs, but also induced and indirect jobs. The EB5 program, the regional center program, typically suitable for large development, such as hotels, resorts, because they are able to cover the direct, indirect, induced jobs. For a smaller restaurant, they typically just need $500,000 US or $1 million US. Restaurant business are typical labor-intensive business. So it's much easier for them to get investment. So there's a major difference about direct EB5 with regional center EB5. Direct EB5 suitable for small labor-intensive projects. EB5 regional center program is more suitable for large, mega-size real estate development.
Have you seen a trend toward EB5 going and helping smaller businesses?
Yes, I think so, because right now, at least my company is advising smaller business, such as restaurants or clubs, in utilizing EB5 money.
When you talk about clubs, are you talking about nightclubs?
Yeah, nightclubs or fitness club or restaurants franchise. Yes.
We were talking about direct investment. Do you see an expansion in that in the manufacturing field? And if so, a lot of our clients are wondering how to get involved in that.
Yes, we definitely see the trend that the American manufacturing companies are utilizing EB-5 program. As a matter of fact, we helped a small manufacturing company in Vermont successfully recruiting investors and raise the capital they need last year. And so that's that's an example how a smaller manufacturing in America can successfully raise capital in the international capital market. At this point, there's another manufacturing related company in Pennsylvania, if I'm not wrong. They are marketing the project in China, and I'm pretty sure and confident they would raise the capital they need. We also helped another lumber mill company. They are going to start marketing end of this year or early this year in Florida. The project is in Florida. They are going to build a new lumber mill over there, and by using EB-5 program. So I see the trend, yes.
Can you explain the difference between loan model and equity model, and which is better?
Okay, I can only talk about the Chinese market.
Okay.
The loan model basically is like the investor treat themselves as a lender. So they lend the money to the developer, and they are expecting a small interest, annual interest. They're expecting you to pay, the developers to pay them back at the end of the investment term. And the equity model is not very popular in the Chinese market, okay? But definitely equity model projects are able to secure funding as well. For investors, when they invest in equity model projects, basically they are part of the shareholders. Okay, so there's a higher risk to some investors. They feel they would have a higher risk when they invest in equity model projects because they really do not know how the company would be run or operated in the United States, whether that project would generate money or would survive the economy. So they feel more comfortable if the project is structured as a loan model. They just say, hey, I want to lend you the money for you to use 5 years, then pay me back at the end of 5 years.
And what are some of the biggest challenges that you see investors face with the program?
It's the uncertainty of the program and the risk associated with the project. Because, the Regional Center program basically just get renewed for another 3 years. So people would ask what's going to happen next 3 years. Is the law going to be renewed or not? So there's an uncertainty with the EB-5 Regional Center program. But for the small-scale direct EB-5 projects, there's no such certainty.
What are some issues facing USCIS with the program that you've seen?
Well, from the investor's perspective, that they feel the lack of efficiency with the government agency. But it's typical, I think, in China, same way, government tend to be slower than private enterprises.
As a whole, what are some challenges EB-5, the program, faces just as a whole?
I think because of the current, challenges that the investors are fully aware of, okay, they feel sometimes frustrated, okay, with the process. And definitely more and more investors are looking into other opportunities with Canada, Australia, Hong Kong, New Zealand, and the European Union.
Now, you're affiliated with a lot of regional centers, I saw. What kind of concerns do you have, and what advice do you give investors? Because we've seen some regional centers that have failed because of corruption. What advice do you give investors? What are some red flags for them to look for?
Well, we are not affiliated with any regional centers.
Okay,
We serve regional center clients. We advise them for the Chinese market or Asian market. Yes, the challenges is, for both parties actually. For the investors, they feel there is so much uncertainty. Basically they regard them as risks. Okay. For the regional centers, they feel that they did not get professional care from the American government agencies, that the USCIS, in this case, are not processing, for instance, the regional center applications or investors' petitions in a timely manner. That makes everyone feel frustrated. And that would bring the negative impression and the perception of the EB-5 program. That's why we see the trend in the Chinese market that many investors would have second thoughts of investing in America. They would say, well, there's so much uncertainty and risks. I better look into other programs with Australia or with New Zealand or even Hong Kong. Hong Kong has similar program, investor program. You invest $1 million, get legal residence in Hong Kong.
How do you dissuade them from the other markets and keep them here in the U.S.?
American educational system, like the colleges, universities, are considered the world class. Education is top number one for Chinese families, for Chinese children. Parents save their life savings just trying to get their children the best they can get. So many families want to send their children to the United States for better education. So for those investors, the EB-5 is still the priority for them to consider.
Now, can you tell me about the EB-5 China Marketing Field Support Center and when and why you founded it?
We established that center a few years back because we see the trends of new regional center that have no knowledge about the investors market. When you are trying to raise capital overseas, it's a tremendous challenge. You do not know the legal system, you do not know how the market works, you do not know the culture, and you really do not know the contacts. So we set up the center just trying to help out the new centers so that they would have an opportunity to raise capital in China.
You put on a lot of events. Can you tell me about some of the events and what the goal is?
Yes, we put up seminars, conferences, meetings, workshops, almost every single month around the country. We also co-host the largest EB-5 event in China. It's called Invest in America Summit. Basically, we invite all the key players, regional centers, to do a big conference and a trade show so that the regional center principals and the developers have face-to-face opportunity with Chinese immigration industry and with Chinese investors. The goal is to educate the public that the EB-5 program is a job-creating program because there are some negative publicity or media coverage or reporting that we are selling American citizenship to wealthy foreigners. That is not true because overseas investors, they are taking the risk, investing in our communities around the country and to help our communities to create jobs. Those are real jobs. Those are American jobs. Those are not the jobs for illegal aliens. So that's why we try to put up the educational seminars to educate the public as well as the developers. There's an alternative way to raise capital.
Brian, recently Governor Romney discussed China and his views. Do you think that that will affect how Chinese investors see America?
No, I don't think so. Okay, investors are people, and the people are fully aware that the United States has the best educational system. If they want to send their children to the United States for better education, they will do that. So I do not see any negative, concerns about the EB-5 program, solely based on the politics. No.
All right, thank you so much for joining us today, Brian.
Thank you.
Artisan Business Group not only links U.S. investment opportunities with sources of capital from China, but they are also strategic advisors to developers nationwide. If you would like to learn more about Artisan Business Group, simply click on the icon to the right. I'm Aimee Rios, and I want to thank you for watching this edition of EB5 Investment Report.